Okay, I've got a bit of mood lighting going on here, it appears, but in any event, welcome everyone. After a bit of hiatus in our all community council meetings, welcome back. And I'd like to call tonight's meeting to order. I'm joined by my colleagues, Commissioner Josh Slotnick, and is Juanita out there too? She
Don't
might be
know.
joining us a little bit
Oh,
late. Is
she
that?
said she was going to be on the phone coming back from an appointment.
That's right. Well, we'll get rolling. It looks like we've got a number of folks from our various community councils on the line, so welcome. And we'll begin in our tradition and per state law by offering an opportunity for public comment on items not on the agenda. And if you've got just random items from your community councils that you want to share during our open meeting for Q&A and just the round robin amongst the community councils, please share your or hold your updates until then. But if there's anything else that anyone wants to bring up, now's your opportunity. Okay. Well, Kyla, before we get rolling, is there anything by way of housekeeping you want to mention before we roll right into our first agenda item?
Sure. Thanks, Commissioner. Just want to remind everybody that we will have a round robin at the end, as Commissioner Strohmeyer mentioned. If you have any comments or questions after the presentations, just please use the raise hand function. If you're on the phone, you can press *6 to unmute and *5 to raise your hand. This will be recorded and put on YouTube for future reference. That's everything for me tonight.
Great. Thanks, Kyla. All right, we'll kick things off and get right to business here. Cindy Kennedy, do you want to provide an update on our Brownfields program?
Yeah, if I can get my camera to work. What the heck? That's weird. Can you guys see me?
We can see a little image of you and you're smiling, so that might have to be good enough.
That might have to be. I don't know what's going on here. I'm having to access Teams with my personal computer, and so maybe that has something to do with it. I do have a presentation to share, so maybe I'll attempt to share that. That might make it challenging if I can't share. Huh. Can you see that?
See that. We can.
And is it a full screen?
It is.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, good. Great. Well, that's good. Okay, so I'm Cindy Kennedy. I'm a grants administrator and I manage the county's Brownfields Assessment Program. And I wanted to let everybody know on the community councils that we have spent down all of the grant that we currently have, and we are in the process of applying for another grant. And this is extremely exciting because we have had 2 brownfield grants, and both of them were spent down in 2 years. They were 3-year grants. The first grant was a $300,000 grant. The second one was $500,000. So we've really developed a lot of demand for this program. And I just wanted to let you all know we're applying again, and just pick your brains if there are any sites that you feel like we should include in our grant application that could be a good brownfield site, and then just build any questions that you all might have. So just real quickly, and please, I'm forwarding slides. I'm hoping this is working. So a brownfield site, just as a reminder, is defined as real property, the expansion, redevelopment, or reuse of which may be complicated by the presence or potential presence of hazardous substances, pollutants, contaminants, controlled substances, petroleum or petroleum products, or is mine-scarred land. And typically in Missoula County, mine-scarred land is gravel pits. Gravel pits are considered a mine. And brownfields can adversely impact human health, decrease the value of surrounding properties, deter potential investment, and present significant safety hazards to the community if left unaddressed. Are these slides advancing?
Yes.
Yep.
Thank you. Okay. So characteristics of a brownfield site could include abandoned property, active but underutilized properties, real estate turnover, which is probably the most common brownfield sites that we get, and those real estate turnovers could be complicated by real or perceived contamination, and then blighted properties. I'm using both my other screen on my other computer so that because I can't see this one, it's so teeny. So brownfield sites can include residential or commercial or industrial parcels of land. Some examples: dry cleaners, automotive repair shops, illegal dump sites, landfills. We have lots of landfills in Missoula County. Warehouses, and then we can also assess properties that have been used to produce methamphetamine. Common contaminants that we see with our assessments are lead-based paint and asbestos in buildings, industrial chemicals, petroleum, and controlled substances. So brownfield sites can, or the Brownfield Assessment Program can help promote revitalization or redevelopment of underutilized properties. So this image on this slide is Silver Park in the Sawmill District, and that area was a very large brownfield site. I think part of it was also a Superfund site. And if you've driven through there lately, it's amazing how much development has occurred there and how much investment has been made in that community. And that's largely because we were able to utilize Brownfields program and clean up some of the contamination that was there. So some of the benefits of the Brownfields program is job growth, reduced development pressure on agricultural lands, reducing pressure on urban sprawl, protecting human health and the environment, stimulating additional redevelopment activities, increasing the local tax base, and eliminating eyesores and safety hazards. So when we're identifying a brownfield site, these are some of the things that we look at. First of all, is it real property? Is it abandoned or underutilized? Is there a potential for contamination? Is there a potential reuse or redevelopment? Is there public benefit? And very importantly, are there willing stakeholders? And how we can use our Brownfields Assessment Grant is we can develop brownfield inventories, site inventories, and prioritize sites. We involve the community throughout this whole process. Then we can conduct phase 1 and phase 2 environmental site assessments, or we can develop cleanup plans or reuse plans. We cannot use these grants for environmental cleanup with one exception, and that is if there is an underground storage tank that could have potentially leaked into the ground below the tank, we can excavate and remove that tank. That's really the closest thing we get to clean up with these funds. Phase 1 assessment is mostly a desktop review, what I consider a desktop review, conducting a lot of research, historical analyses, looking at old maps, record searches and that sort of thing. But we also will do site visits and visit with current and past owners, neighbors, nearby business owners, local officials on it, and get a real good sense of how the property has been used in the past. And then we produce a final report. And if throughout that process of conducting that assessment, it's determined that there could be some environmental concerns, then we would do a phase 2 assessment. And the phase 2 assessment involves more field work, potentially collecting soil samples, depending on if it's bare land and how it might have been used in the past. Like I mentioned, lots of landfills in Missoula County, and also assessing building material hazardous building materials like asbestos and lead-based paint. So even if the property just really only has a building and maybe a parking lot, if that building is old, it very well, anything pretty much before 1980 could very well have asbestos or lead-based paint. And there's other hazardous building materials like PCB in light ballasts and mercury in old thermostats. and in light tubes, fluorescent light tubes. So those are the kinds of, we do a lot of the building material inventories to determine if there's hazardous materials in buildings before any work is done to demolish or remodel or any of that kind of redevelopment. And then of course there's a final report that's provided with that. And another thing that's really exciting that we get to do with these funds is cleanup and reuse planning. And the image in this on this slide is Clinton Community Center, and we were really fortunate to be able to work with the EPA to do some visioning with that site. And this is one of the images that came out of that design work that was done, and that was can be covered by the Brownfields Assessment Program. And these pictures, the top one are the commissioners, and at the local government building, the John Engen Local Government Building. This was, I believe, when the building was dedicated, with Mayor Hess. And then the bottom image is the
Hey, Cindy, I am not seeing it advance. Maybe other folks are.
Sorry, I think I forgot to advance. There we go. Can
There
you
we
see
are.
that?
Thank you.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Dave. So some of the benefits of the assessment program, the Brownfields Assessment Program, first and foremost, participation is voluntary. This is not an enforcement program. This is not a regulatory program. Assessments are completed at no or low cost to the owner, and the owners approve all the work that's done, and they own the reports that are produced at the end. Sometimes lenders require that these environmental site assessments be done, especially if there's a loan involved, obviously with lenders. And so that can satisfy those requirements, and they can also address community concerns. So as I was mentioning in the images, that top image is, I believe, the dedication of the John Engen Local Government Building. And then the bottom image is the MRL triangle, and that is the late Mayor John Engen at that dedication. And that also was a brownfield site. Just to go back to some of the successes of to date, since 2019, the 2 grants that we've received, we've done 14 phase 1 environmental site assessments, 12 phase 2 environmental site assessments, 3 analyses of brownfields cleanup alternatives. So this is a public process that we go through, that if there's going to be any cleanup, we invite the community to comment on some of the alternatives that we came up with. The cleanup plan visioning design work that was done at Clinton Community Center. We've assessed 850 acres, which is a lot, I think. 100 acres of those are slated for residential redevelopment, and over $75 million has been invested in these sites, or will be invested in these sites in the near future. And these are maps of the sites that we've done so far, and they're so broad that we can't fit them all on one map. So this is Seeley Lake, Clinton, Rock Creek Lodge, Frenchtown Fire, some acres out by Smurfett Stone. This is Marshall Mountain, Bonner, West Log Yard, Milltown State Park, some of those areas. And then this is more in Missoula in the city. And so that just kind of gives you an idea. Oh, I'm not sorry. I apologize. I'm advancing them on my other screen, but I'm not advancing them on this one. So my apologies. And then finally, I just wanted to give you guys a chance to ask me any questions or provide any feedback, and let me know if there's any areas that you feel like we need to focus on with this next grant.
Hey,
All right.
Cindy, this is Juan. Oh,
Yes.
sorry. I jumped on late, and you may have already said this, but how much is available that we can apply for?
500,000.
Okay, thanks.
You bet. And I still can't
right.
get my camera to work, so I'll just leave the slide up for now.
Okay, thanks for that, Cindy. So let's just open it up. Folks have any questions for Cindy? Now is your opportunity. Or thoughts of potential areas that could be considered as brownfields that would fit into this program. Any questions or comments from anyone?
So what about something like Pyramid? Is that, I mean,
Mhm.
with the future being somewhat uncertain, like, I mean, yeah. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I think we are at this moment planning on talking about Pyramid in the grant application. And we can talk about sites that or target areas. It doesn't mean we're committing to assessing those sites, but we can use that as an example. And hopefully we would be able to help with that if the grant were to come through. And if there's
And just
interest
to,
in
and just to be clear, Cindy, ultimately it's what we're talking about here when it pertains to private property. It's voluntary. So we might identify a potential site in an application, but that does not commit the or force anything upon a private property owner, correct?
That is correct. Yep. And we oftentimes in our grant applications name target areas where we're planning to work, and some of those sites come through and some of them don't. So yep, it's 100% voluntary. There's no pressure on property owners to participate. But
So
we
while
do
folks
have,
are yeah,
oh,
go
go
ahead.
ahead. Oh,
While
I was
folks
just
are
going to
collecting while folks are collecting their thoughts here momentarily, maybe also, and you can say whatever you're poised to say there, Cindy, but also maybe hit on the time frame for collecting information that would be fed into an application and when the application deadline is.
Yes, thank you, Dave. That's a very good point. The application is due November 14th. I'm hoping to have a really solid draft ready to route for review that first week of November. So if there's anyone has any questions or suggestions, they could reach out to me and share that with me. Let me look at a calendar before the 8th of November. So that's not a lot of
So
time.
no, it's not like not a lot of time at all. Like something needs to be pretty much ready to go. So like
Mhm.
the Condon Work Center, is another piece of property or site that I'm curious about. But again, that's just way too early. Is that correct?
So tell me more, Juan, about the Condon Work Center.
Well, it's
What
owned by the
is it?
Forest Service, but they're trying to divest, but that's not, they haven't worked through their process yet. And so they're probably not going to be poised to do that or begin that until what, March? Is that right, Dave?
Well, I would totally throw it in. I think
Yeah.
it might be the sort of thing where you'd want to consult with the Flathead National Forest, but uh, I would be inclined to. So yeah, as Juanita mentioned, this is a site that the Forest Service has targeted for disposal. It's unclear what all might be on the site, but in terms of potential for redevelopment, it's one of the prime areas in the Swan. And I have no doubt that over decades upon decades of use by the U.S. Forest Service, um, there could be any number of possible brownfield contaminants on the
Yeah.
site.
That is great. Yeah, we cannot assess federally owned properties, but once it's divested, similarly to the John Engen Local Government Building, then we can use those grants as long as it doesn't transfer to another federal entity. So
Aha, okay.
the timing could work really well, honestly, because by the time we would be, if we are successful, we would not be starting the next grant until a year from now, like October 1st of 2025. And we would
Okay.
probably learn about whether we were successful sometime late spring, early summer, hopefully, of 2025. So timing wise, that could work because it will be a 3-year grant, and providing we don't spend it down in 2 years, which we might, if there's enough demand that continues. But it sounds like the timing might be possible unless it's really far out that they would be divesting from that site.
Well, I'd be
Oh, that's
inclined
good to hear.
to be as expansive as possible and err on the side of the federal government moving expeditiously, which might be a bit of a invalid assumption. But
It might help them
anyway,
move
it
quickly.
might. Yeah. So other folks out there, any thoughts at this point? Do you have Cindy's contact information on the screen if you want to sleep on it, but just do not sleep on it too long?
Yeah, and I'll stay on till the end of the meeting, just in case anybody wants to chat more about it.
Thanks. Anyone want to chime in now? Don't be shy about raising your hand. Okay, well, thanks, Cindy, for that presentation, and we'll see if anyone has anything by the end of this meeting they want to share. Otherwise, they have your contact information and can be in touch.
Awesome. Thank you, Dave.
You bet. All right, from brownfields to transportation, do we have Glenn Ingram from the city of Missoula on the line to update us? There's Glenn. We're going to get an update on the long-range transportation planning process and also the transit strategic planning process that Mountain Line is going through. So Glenn.
Great, thank you. My name is Glenn Ingram, transportation planner with Missoula MPO and the city, and I'm here tonight to provide a little information on our long-range plan, and then also an update as to where we're at in the planning process. And then I'm also joined by my colleague Spencer with Mountain Line, and he's going to share a little bit of information as well. If you have any issues seeing my screen or hearing me, please let me know. Yep, so I am sharing information on what we call our LRTP, or our Long Range Transportation Plan. This is a process we've been going through for a few months now, so I'm sure many of you might have already heard about this, but I'll just give a little bit of background for those that might not be familiar. As an MPO, and an MPO is a metropolitan planning organization, we have a requirement to create this long-range plan. The plan exists to determine priorities for transportation projects and programs in the Missoula region. We look at all modes of transportation, so just not vehicles. We're also looking at bike trips, walking trips, rolling trips. Our hope is to create a more connected region. We look at how projects are funding and how funding should be allocated. And then we also work to coordinate a common vision between our local agencies. The timeframe of the plan is we are looking at a 30-year horizon for projects, but we do this update every 4 years. So our last plan, Missoula Connect, was adopted in 2020. The plan's project list has to be updated every 4 years, and it considers progress to date and also addresses any emerging or future needs that have started to exist in the region. And then that updated project list is then constrained by our forecasted revenue and project costs. The extent of projects we are considering is both the city of Missoula and then also the urbanized area of Missoula County. It's not the best map, but on the right side of the screen here, you can see in blue, highlighted in blue there, is the spatial extent of where we're looking at projects. So just not the city, we're also looking at some of those outlying areas like the Y and East Missoula and Bonner. Part of the work we've been working on over the last few months is taking into consideration just the existing conditions on the ground in the Missoula area. So we've been looking at regional growth, housing affordability, transit, the transit system and amenities, bike walking conditions, the existing roadway network and traffic that we've all been experiencing. So we've taken all these things into consideration, And part of the early work done on our plan is releasing an existing conditions report. So we have that work completed, and it's actually available to see on our Engage Missoula page. The projects we're taking into consideration fall into 4 sort of buckets. Active transportation, so that is where we would have an existing roadway, but it might need better facilities for walking, biking, or rolling. So an example would be adding bike lanes to an existing road. We look at safety projects, so that's aimed at reducing conflicts or crashes at intersections. And so that's usually just bringing a roadway up to a higher level of design. We also have complete street projects, and that's where you're integrating both travel lanes, walking, biking, and then usually boulevard for street trees. That's a little bit more robust project. And then we have entirely new roadways and bridges. So that's where something is either reconfigured or rebuilt, or an entirely new system is going in. This is where we're at in our timeline. So like I said, most of you might have heard about this process or hopefully been engaged with in some capacity. But we just finished up what we were calling phase 2. So we've been doing a lot of collecting information. We had a survey, we had an open house, we have done both a call for projects, then a scoring of those projects. And right now we're sort of in between phases and digesting all that information. And our next step will be the output of a recommended project list and some of our final reports and presentations. So we're just at that last check-in before we start producing some of our final materials. Just to share a little bit about what we've completed so far, in terms of public engagement, we've had an open house. We had a survey that was open for about 3 weeks where the public could comment on projects and share their thoughts and priorities for the regions. We've had a number of community partner meetings with local organizations, and also what we called community conversations, where we went to local groups and shared updates about what we were doing. And then we've also been tabling and doing presentations. We've been working quite a bit with our Missoula land use plan team, so we're able to attend their events and pass out information about our transportation plan. Like I mentioned, we've completed our existing conditions report. That also included an executive summary. We've updated the project list, and we've conducted an early project list scoring and then public comment on that. So what comes next is we're going to continue our public engagement over the next few months. We're going to work on finalizing that recommended project list, release our final report, and then we're aiming for a plan adoption in the spring. So while we have done a lot of work, there's still a lot of opportunity to engage, leave comment, or engage with this process as you would like to. This is just an infographic to show where we are on our projects. So we have collected projects and scored them. And right now we're working on creating that final recommended project list. So if you haven't had a chance to see the projects yet, that's okay. Feel free to visit the website, take a look, and we can still collect comments and feedback on those. And then I would just encourage you, if you're interested, we have an Engage Missoula page up that has all this information. That's also where we release information as we continue to work. So if you're not following along there, that's a great place to get started. And then you can also, I believe, find that through Missoula Voice as well. So the county's website. And with that, I will turn it over briefly to Spencer, and he can chat a little bit about Mountain Line.
Thanks. So Spencer Stark, I'm the transit planner at Mountain Line, and we entered this process, this strategic planning process, in partnership with the MPO. So the strategic plan update occurs at pretty much every 4 to 5 years. This process involves looking at performance, route by route, stop by stop, looking at how demographics have changed, and starting to contemplate what service delivery could look like, and what new types of service are available. So we've been working with the MPO to, as our interests overlap greatly, and we've been engaging with community stakeholder groups, as well as holding or otherwise attending a range of meetings. I think we've attended up to 30 meetings at this time. Out of these processes, drafting the existing conditions report and reviewing our performance, we developed 2 scenarios and circulated those via a survey to gather feedback. We received about 640 responses to that survey, and now we are starting to develop what's called a preferred scenario in response to a lot of the both the support and concerns that we received during that process. And we plan to be able to share out the new preferred alternative via this phase 3 engagement process. We're looking at targeting late November or early December for those for that preferred alternative. And as Glenn mentioned previously, we have a site on Engage Missoula, where if you're interested in keeping up to date on the project and process or providing comments, that would be the best way to interface with the strategic plan process. Thank you.
Thanks, Spencer. And if anyone has any questions, we're happy to answer those in chat.
All right. Thanks, Glenn and Spencer. Any questions from any of our attendees today for either Glenn or Spencer regarding the long-range transportation plan or Mountain Line's strategic plan update? Any questions or comments? It looks like we have the Engage Missoula page in the chat, so folks should feel free to, at their leisure, click on that and provide your input or learn more. Okay. You have left us speechless, Glenn and Spencer. Thanks so much. We appreciate you joining us tonight.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
You bet. Moving on, Kyla, you have an update for us on a public hearing related to the West Valley Community Council.
Yes, I just wanted to let everyone know on October 4th, the first hearing for the West Valley Community Council was heard. This is in consideration to change the boundaries. Currently, the boundaries are voter precincts, and the idea would be to change it to school district boundaries to match the Frenchtown School District boundaries. And so the second hearing for that and potential close of hearing and vote is tomorrow, October 24th at 2 p.m. in the Commissioners Conference Room in the Sophie Moise Room in the annex of the courthouse. And any comments and questions can be directed to the voice page, and I will drop that in the chat. That's it.
Thank you. Thank you, Kyla. Any questions or comments on this right now? Karen Hughes.
Good evening. Can I add something that tags actually onto the previous item for folks, just in case?
No.
No.
No, just joking. Yeah,
Okay.
Absolutely. Go ahead.
I wanted to, Glenn mentioned our Missoula growth policy, and I did want to highlight for folks that the draft plan, the draft land use plan, is out for that project. This will be particularly of interest to East Missoula and Bonner Milltown, I think. I'm not sure that any other community councils cover that area, but I'm going to post the link to the Engage Missoula page so that you have that information. They're starting the public hearing process. It's super fast. They've just released the plan and they're starting the public hearing process in November. That being said, there is time to review and provide comments, but I do highly recommend folks take a look at that. For the way the city does planning, they're really trying to front load public involvement into this plan and the codes, because development review will happen differently in the cities once this plan and the future codes are adopted. So that's one thing I wanted to put on folks' radar. And the other is related to the Prost planning process, which is also a city planning process. Sorry, lots of city planning updates, but these planning.
Karen, remind us what Prost means.
Yeah, so Prost is for Parks, Recreation, Open Space, and Trails. So this is the planning process for that. So the city has their transportation plan and the transit strategic plan. They have their land use plan called Our Missoula, and then PROST is Parks, Recreation, Open Space, and Trails. And the reason that county residents should be interested in all of these is that they will, impact how growth and development and parks and recreation and transportation happens in that whole urban area. And obviously people in the county, some of you live in that urban area and then some of you travel through it. So, and use some of the facilities. So I just want to make sure that folks are available and have access to this information.
Thank you, Karen. Any questions related to either the proposed change of boundaries for the West Valley Community Council or anything that Karen just mentioned? Okay. Well, let's get right to the main attraction here. Well, all of these were the main attraction, but the thing that many of you look forward to, and that is our traditional round robin, where each of the community councils gets to provide a bit of an update as far as what's going on in your neck of the woods and generate a little bit of cross-fertilization of ideas between community councils. So Kyla, would you be so kind as to help us navigate through all the community councils and see what's going on?
Sure. Why don't we start with West Valley tonight? I see that Tom Tucker is on, and Reagan, if you have any updates.
Last Wednesday, we had a meeting at, excuse me, at the fire hall, and we had a really big attendance, but it was all on about the floodwater project that was put on by the DNRC, talking about the LIDAR project, and there was a couple of folks there that were a little upset because they've been out of the floodwater zoning for eons, since all their lives, and now all of a sudden they're in. So I think I talked to one of the commissioners that if these folks had a grievance, they should coordinate that first with the county commissioner, and then come to some agreement before they start flinging fists. And that way the county commissioners are aware of what's going on with all this farmland that's been rezoned into the floodplain. So that was the main topic that we had. So other than that, not much else going on.
Thanks, Tom.
Okay,
Reagan, did you have anything to add?
Thanks, Tom.
Say again?
Tom, most of it.
Great, thank you.
And it looks like Karen.
And just to be clear for folks, yeah, what's in the chat?
Floodplain mapping.
I think Karen.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And just to be clear for folks, the floodplain mapping process is completely separate from county zoning. So two very different things. Certainly both of them will impact people's properties, but the floodplain mapping is something that's in process, and nothing has been set in stone as of yet.
That's correct.
Okay, thanks, Reagan and Tom.
I don't
to you,
see
Kyla.
anyone. Yeah, I don't see anyone on from the Swan Valley or Steely, but if you jumped on and I'm missing you, please speak out. All right, with that, then we'll go ahead and move on to Lolo. There's several of you on tonight.
I'll go ahead and start with an update. So we had a lot of construction this summer, but it was great because now we've got a new surface coming into town from the city of Missoula, and that is pretty much done, that construction on Highway 93. And then the sidewalks were completed before school started. So that was really good to see the kiddos now have a safer place to walk to and from that new school. In our meetings, we had a presentation on some options that the Lolo school, the folks that bought the old Lolo school site, some options they're considering for what looks to be maybe one of their phase 1 developments with some housing. And so they presented a couple options and asked for feedback from the community. So that was nice that they came and did that presentation. We also hosted a candidate forum that was informative for the folks that were able to make it. Had, you know, some pretty good turnout from the community based on the limited advertising that we did there. But that was fun to host that. And then another exciting thing is we actually applied for a Parks and Recreation grant. So a lot of work went into that from our council member, Angela Previte, and kudos to her for all of her work trying to pull that info together, and looking forward to the decision on that grant. And we'll see what comes out of that and if we've got new recreation opportunities out of that in Lolo. That's about it for my updates, and I'll let anyone else chime in from Lolo if they want to.
Thank you.
All right, I don't hear anyone else speaking, so we'll move on to East Missoula. Cynthia, if you had anything you wanted to share tonight.
Not too much going on. I think the biggest thing that people have been talking about is the Aspire subdivision. Besides that, we have the community garden that went in at the Lions Park. And I believe that they're working on doing some fundraising for that to get the final costs that are needed for that. Besides that, not much that I can think of is really going on.
Thank you. So that leaves us to Clinton. Several of you on tonight, if you'd like to share.
Oh, I don't think we're all going to talk at once. We had Blackfoot Communications come out and speak with our community regarding some of the things that are going on, the updates, and the high-speed internet access that they will be providing to certain areas. They're waiting on different grants to try and complete other places. They shared with us the different areas that they are complete, and what they're hoping to add different areas. And then we also had Chris share the outcome of our survey that we had put out there, trying to find out exactly what the interests of our community was. And I think Chris probably has that information with her. We also offered paperwork showing the Clinton Community Conversation follow-up. So everyone that attended, they could pick up a hard copy of it. What did you say, Chris? Unable to mute my mic. Oh, okay. So we won't be talking about anything like that. But there were just a few concerns that we had in the community. And maybe next meeting we can talk about those things, since I don't have the paperwork in front of me, what the outcomes were. So, and that's about it. We hope to have Josh come see us next month, and going to discuss the property taxes that people are real interested in. So that's all I have. Oh, can you even hear me?
We can hear you. Thanks, Bonnie.
Oh.
I appreciate that update.
Just rattling on. I have no idea if you can hear me or not.
Yeah, we got it. Chris, I can't unmute you, but if you want to try to leave the meeting and come back, that might help in the meantime while we move on to the other updates. Unless, Frankie, did you have something to share? Are you still on?
No, I think Bonnie covered everything that I can think of. Yeah, so thank you.
Okay, thanks. And then I think Emily hopped on for Bonner Milltown, if you had anything you wanted to share.
Get quick. Yeah, I hopped on late. Sorry, I was in another meeting. September and October, we had candidate forums. The first one was well attended. The second one was a little lighter, but we were glad to hear from a number of the candidates. And then this last month, we had the new owner of the West Log Yard industrial area. So that's been a concern of the community for a long time. It was concerned when they had it up for sale. So it was really great to have Gregory Morse there to kind of talk about what he is, who he is, and he wants to be a really good neighbor in the way and to communicate with the community what the plans are for that industrial subdivision. And so that was really helpful going forward. So we were excited to have him. And then Dave, we still have the gentleman that would like to talk about that quiet zone again. And he's going to reach out to you. So we'll let you have that communication with him. He just wanted to ask some details first. So we have a gentleman that wants to talk to Dave about the possibility of not the possibility, or understand what it would take to put a quiet zone. So the trains that go through Milltown, Plittsville, and Tura area to not blow their horns. So that is my 3 updates. So thank you.
Thanks, Emily. I think that's all of our updates for tonight. Anyone else have anything else to share tonight?
Right. Did our individual from Clinton who was having trouble with audio rejoin?
I see Chris is still on, but I don't know if she can unmute.
No audio. Okay, well, we'll get you an update, an opportunity to update us next time, Chris. So no problem there. Anything else from anyone that comes to mind?
I wanted to add, when the folks from Clinton said maybe I'm coming out next month, I'm definitely coming out and looking forward to it.
Extend Josh a little bit of grace. This will be the first time he's ever talked about property taxes. So,
oh, that's not true. True. I watched his video. That's why I thought he would be great to come and talk to us. He really explains why are your property taxes as much as they are.
I'm looking forward to it. Thanks for having me.
Well, we're looking forward to you coming out.
Anything else from anyone? Anything, Commissioner Slotnick or Vero, that you'd like to add?
No, and folks who aren't even in Clinton should participate in that meeting with Josh and his property taxes. It's delightful.
Yeah,
well worth it.
Well, thanks everybody for coming tonight.
Yeah, I guess with that, if there's no other questions or comments or concerns, we will wrap it up for this evening and look forward to meeting you at the next All Community Council meeting. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.